In this module, we'll take a look at the fifth step in the decision process, Dramatize. We'll learn about the purpose and the features of the Dramatize page as I demonstrate how to use it. In the decision process, the purpose of the Dramatize step is to help you rehearse the decisions and actions. It's modeled after the behavior of an incident commander who mentally prepares for acting on the decisions he's developed. By this point, you've determined the extent of the consequences of the event you're facing. Now it's a matter of examining the implications of those consequences and determining the protective actions that are appropriate for the event. This involves reviewing and fine-tuning the isolation zone and protective action zone, reviewing the alerts for locations of concern that merit special consideration during evacuation planning, establishing where to locate key emergency response assets, and reviewing the protective action checklist to make sure you've considered all appropriate actions. Now that we've established the purpose of the Dramatize step in the decision process, let's take a closer look at the Dramatize page. As you can see, the Dramatize page is divided into two main areas. The main panel covers most of the page. The second area along the right side of the screen is the dashboard, our touchstone of consistency. Since we've covered the dashboard before, we'll limit our discussion to the main panel. The main panel is comprised of several sections, including the event summary, the locations of concern, an incident map, which is bigger than we've seen on other pages, and a protective action checklist at the bottom of the page. The event summary should look familiar because you've seen this information lay out before on the Recognize page, the Analyze page, and the Customize page. On the Dramatize page, the event summary records the details of the event you chose and then modified. At this point of the decision process, you can no longer change things. In essence, this is a record of the event characteristics that will form the basis for how you deal with the event. The emergency hazard information sheet for the substance will open in its own separate window if you click on the link. The sheet provides information you'll want to review as you plan your approach to the event response. Most of the event characteristics on this page are pretty much fixed. There's two important exceptions, however. You can still adjust the size of the isolation zone and the protective action zone using the slider controls. As I move the slider controls, the size of the zones on the incident map change accordingly, as do the distances shown in the slider bar control. This feature allows you to tweak the results for the two zones to accommodate the area affected by the event. You can increase or decrease the diameters of the two zones. We'll talk about why you'd want to do that in just a few minutes. If you play around with the adjustment feature but then decide you want to return to the zone sizes calculated by the system, all you have to do is click the link called Reset IZ and PAZ. The incident map is a feature we've seen before. It appears on the Characterize, Analyze, and Customize pages. On those other pages, the incident map is shown in a much more compact form, so you can compare one map to another and get a sense of the relative scale of consequences as you adjust the characteristics that affect them. Here on the Dramatize page, however, we're going to make some important decisions about how to deal with the incident. For that, we need a bigger map, and AlphaACT HAZMAT has kindly obliged us. The incident map on the Dramatize page has many of the same features as it does on the other pages. That includes the controls up here that let you zoom in and out and move the map in different directions. You also can use the hand feature to move the map around as needed. But there are differences too. First, notice the dark blue dots sprinkled around the map. These are what we call locations of concern. Buildings or facilities that merit special review since they may house populations of people that would be difficult to evacuate. This includes places with sensitive or restricted populations, like nursing homes, schools, or jails, critical infrastructure facilities, like public health centers, banks, or government facilities, and emergency response facilities, like fire stations, police stations, or hospitals. By placing these facilities on the incident map, the system can help you tell at a glance where they fall relative to the isolation zone and the protective action zone for the event. The locations shown as dark blue dots on the incident map are also listed on the Locations of Concern panel at the top of the page, along with the name of the facility and its address. By default, the incident map shows the isolation zone and the protective action zone view. But if you click this tab here, the view changes to show you the resulting hot zone and warm zone. This view is only available if you previously set the wind direction for the event. As you can see, the locations of concern are visible in this view too, so you can review the consequences in terms of who may be on the downwind side of a situation. There's one more thing I wanted to show you on the incident map, and it has to do with one of the key tasks you undertake here on the Dramatize page. As part of rehearsing the actions you intend to put into effect, you'll decide where to locate key emergency response assets. These include the incident command post, traffic control points, assembly points, evacuation centers, decontamination sites, staging areas, bases, and camps. This is an important task that you'll complete on the Dramatize page. Which locations you decide to place will depend on the size and scope of the event you're dealing with. To place a location, you'll use the buttons just above the incident map. To place one of the locations, you select the location type by clicking its button. Then you move the cursor to the point on the map where you wish to place it and click again. First, I'll set the incident command post. And now I'll set a traffic control point in the same way. The system places limits on the number of these locations you can place on the map. For example, you can place up to 10 traffic control points, but only one incident command post. The information about these limits is available through the online help system available if you click this question mark. The system will also present you with alerts under certain circumstances. For example, if you place a response location within the isolation zone, protective action zone, hot zone, or warm zone, the system will remind you of the potential danger that may present to people. Watch as I try to put a traffic control point inside the protective action zone. The system won't stop you from doing it, but it will point out what should be obvious, just in case you overlooked it in a moment of haste. If you want to move a location that you've already placed on the map, you just click and drag it to its new location. If you want to remove a location altogether, you double-click it. The system will remove it, and since there's limits to the number of these locations you can place, it will also make it available to add to the map later. One way to think of this is that it returns the button to inventory. The last thing to note on the main panel is the Protective Action Checklist, here at the bottom of the page. This list suggests other actions you should consider at this stage of the decision process, and it presents the information in a checklist format that you can use to identify those things that are relevant to do for the scenario you're working on. Once you've finished your tasks on the Dramatize page, you click Utilize to move to the next page. This completes our review of the Dramatize page. As a quick recap, the purpose of the Dramatize page is to help you rehearse the decision and actions. On this page, you'll do several things. You'll review and fine-tune the isolation zone and protective action zone. You'll review the locations of concern that merit special consideration during evacuation planning. You'll decide where to locate key emergency response assets. And you'll review the Protective Action Checklist to make sure you've considered all appropriate actions. In the next module, we'll discuss the final step of the decision process, Utilize.